How do you even begin to understand a revolution when it's happening on the other side of the planet? Today we're diving into the 1956 Hungarian Revolution, but not from the streets of Budapest. Nope, we're going to see it through the eyes of one man, Béla Turek, who was living thousands of miles away in Australia. It's a really personal story about how a world-changing event can echo across the globe.
And this quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of it all, doesn't it? This is the core feeling of being in exile. It's this constant tug of war between two worlds, the new life you're trying so hard to build, and this powerful, almost magnetic pull of the home you had to leave behind.
So, to really get the impact of the revolution, first we got to understand the world Béla had built for himself in Sydney. It was this life of, quiet, steady progress, but it was always kind of haunted by the past, and always aimed at a future back in Hungary. I mean, look at these steps they were taking. These are real, tangible things. By 1956, they had their own house, the first one since 1944. That's a huge deal. They were buying simple, new furniture. Béla was hitting the books, studying to be an accountant, and he was crushing it, even came in second out of 50 people in an English exam. He was taking care of his family there and still sending help back home to his dad. On paper, they were absolutely succeeding. But, and this is the key, all of that progress, all that moving forward in Australia was in his mind totally temporary. Every single decision, every purchase was seen through this one filter. Will this help us when we return? The real goal was always Hungary. And you can see this mental conflict playing out in the smallest details. It's fascinating. So he's studying Australian commercial law, right? But what he's actually picturing in his head is being on a boat, sailing home. His wife needs a sewing machine, and his only condition is that it has to be portable, so they can take it with them on the journey back. This wasn't just some daydream, it was literally part of their everyday planning. Okay, so now let's see how this carefully built world, this really delicate balance between his present in Australia and his future in Hungary, was just completely blown apart by news from halfway around the globe. And it all happens so fast, it's just dizzying. Look at this timeline. October 22nd, he hears students have left the Communist Party. The very next day, massive rallies. Then, gunfire. The revolution is on. But by November 4th, it's over, crushed by Soviet tanks. For Hungarians everywhere, it was just this incredible emotional whiplash. For those first few days, though, the feeling was just electric. The author talks about this fever that just swept through the whole community. They were glued to their radios, barely sleeping, all of them thinking that famous revolutionary phrase, now is the time. Now or never. After all those years of waiting, it felt like this was finally it. But that incredible hope was immediately mixed with this deep, nagging fear. And this wasn't just pessimism. Béla and the others, they had seen this play out before. They remembered the uprising in East Germany in '53, the protests in Poland. They knew the West had a track record of talking a big game, but then doing nothing when the tanks actually rolled in. So that pride and hope was tangled up with this awful, realistic sense of dread. For just a brief, really intense moment, the fight in Hungary wasn't some far-off story. It was a global event, and for Hungarians living in Australia, it brought this strange and pretty short-lived sense of recognition. And get this, just by sheer coincidence, the Melbourne Olympics were happening at the exact same time. Suddenly, being Hungarian in Australia made you a hero. The author writes about how the Australian crowds would just roar for the Hungarian athletes. And the water polo final against the Soviet Union, it became more than a game. It was like a proxy war. So violent, they say the pool literally turned red. It was this crazy outlet for a political anger the world didn't know how to deal with. And then came the crash. The feeling of being totally betrayed. This quote from a Hungarian newspaper editor in Sydney just sums up the bitterness perfectly. The hatred for the Russians who invaded, well, that was a given. But the feeling for the Americans was different. It was contempt. After years of radio broadcasts telling them to rise up, the fact that no one came to help felt like a huge, cynical betrayal. So the revolution fails, and a new wave of refugees, the 56ers, starts arriving. You think this would bring the community in Sydney closer together, right? Well, it turns out they didn't just bring new faces. They brought all the old, deep-seated conflicts of Hungary with them. Now, according to Béla Turek's own observations, a really big majority of these new arrivals, something like 70 to 80%, were Jewish.
And this demographic fact, as he describes it, immediately created this incredibly complex and tense situation with the Hungarians who'd already been in Australia for years.
And here you can really see these old historical wounds just crack wide open. On one side, you have the earlier refugees, mostly Christians, who fled around 45 or 49. From their perspective, the communist government they ran from was run by Muscovites, a term they used for communists trained in Moscow, who they saw as being mostly Jewish. Then, on the other side, you have the Hungarian Jews, both old and new arrivals, now caught between this old resentment and a new wave of Hungarian nationalism. The ghosts of the old country had followed them to the new one. So watching his community fracture like this, Bela, a guy who had always tried to steer clear of politics, just felt like he couldn't stand on the sidelines anymore. He felt like he had to do something.
So a big meeting was called. The goal was to create one single unified Hungarian association. But the second a former police captain was nominated for a leadership spot, the whole thing just blew up. People started shouting accusations about his role in wartime deportations. And in that chaotic moment, Bela just stood up and gave this incredible off-the-cuff speech begging everyone to stop refighting the wars of the past. It was so powerful that they immediately asked him to join the leadership.
And this was the heart of his plea. He wasn't ignoring the past. He acknowledged all the suffering, the bloodshed of the revolution, the horrors of the Holocaust. But he was begging them, here, in this new country, we have to stop trying to settle old scores. We have to, finally, be one community.
But it just wasn't meant to be. The whole effort fell apart. He pretty quickly realized that the historical wounds were just too deep, too raw. Neither side was willing to let go of their version of the past, and that dream of a united community just died.
His own resignation letter kind of says it all, really. He wrote that the scars are still open, and that most people just weren't able to forget. He saw that it was an impossible task, so he stepped away, wanting to keep himself separate from the fighting that would just never heal. Which really leaves us with this final massive question, doesn't it? This whole story, this snapshot of the Hungarian community in Sydney back in 1956, it's a powerful look at something much bigger. It makes you wonder, is it ever really possible to leave the conflicts of a broken home behind? Or are we all just destined to carry the broken pieces with us no matter how far we run?